Ladies and gentlemen, and a hearty warm welcome to each one of you to Deaf Expo 2022. May I please request all of you to kindly put your mobile phones on silent, please. Thank you very much. This afternoon, we are going to dwell upon a very pertinent topic which is very relevant to the fledgling aerospace industry in India. Indian Air Force, in association with Society of Indian Defence Manufacturers, is proud to host this seminar on the topic, Certification and Qualification of Airborne Stores, supporting the private sector to promote indigenous research and development and manufacturing. It is indeed an honor for me to introduce the eminent speakers for this session. Starting from my left, Air Vice Marshal George Thomas, Ati Vishisht Seva Medal, Vayu Sena Medal, Assistant Chief of Air Staff Plans, Indian Air Force. Air Marshal C.R. Mohan, Ati Vishisht Seva Medal, Vishisht Seva Medal, Senior Maintenance Staff Officer, Maintenance Command, Indian Air Force. Shri A.P.V.S. Prasad, Outstanding Scientist and Chief Executive, Airworthiness, Semilac. Shri Sanjay Chawla, Director General, Aeronautical Quality Assurance. Shri Amol Thorat, Head of Quality Assurance, Godrej Aerospaces Limited. Shri Ajay Gupta, Vice President, D&D Airborne Platforms and Systems, Tata Advanced Systems Limited. Thank you so much. We also have among us the Deputy Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Narmadeshwar Tiwari, Ati Vishisht Seva Medal, Vayu Sena Medal, who will share his thoughts on this topic during his keynote address. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome senior officials from services, DPSUs, industry, innovators, and brilliant minds from various startups. Without any further delay, may I please request Air Vice Marshal George Thomas to kindly take over the proceedings from here. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Fellow panelists, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, very good afternoon to you. The aerospace industry is a strategically important sector for our country. It is also a symbol of our nation's technological prowess and economic prosperity. The impetus being provided now under Atmanirbhar Bharat has set the Indian defense industry on a high growth trajectory. In the aerospace sector, we need to harness all elements of national power to leverage this growth curve. We must leapfrog and master critical, emerging, and breakthrough technologies. In order to progress, policy must provide opportunities and incentives to our Indian industry to join the global value chain in aerospace R&D as well as manufacturing. While the requirement of being technology leaders is well understood, the nature of the aerospace sector, especially in the military domain, poses certain formidable challenges to indigenization. Qualification, testing, and certification of airborne systems and stores is an integral part of the product development life cycle. Critical factors affecting the certification domain are the very stringent safety and redundancy requirements for airworthiness, as well as the very high costs associated with this sector. For new entities contemplating an entry into the aerospace arena, these challenges often lead to an increased perception of risk. However, while the challenges are many, the opportunities are equally extensive. A focused investment into this cutting-edge sector can generate multiple spin-offs across domains with tremendous applications in the civilian sphere. Any entity who invests smartly in the aerospace sector has an excellent chance on getting in the ground floor of emerging technology and thus has the potential to see enormous returns on investment. For a new player, the key aspects influencing initial productivity and cost are awareness, accessibility, transparency, affordability, and institutional guidance on certification and qualification. It has to be ensured by all of us that private sector R&D, system integrators, and tier 1, 2, and 3 manufacturers gain a comprehensive understanding of qualification and certification procedures, processes, and policies. It is also equally important that facilities and knowledge base are easily accessible and affordable. Military aerospace segment in India has traditionally been the exclusive domain of the government in the form of a monopoly or near monopoly on defense R&D and defense production. The customer base was also limited to the armed forces with little or no push for exports. In recent years, however, this has changed, and with rapidly increasing potential for export, especially with the changing geopolitical environment, there is no choice but to facilitate the entry of the private sector into the market in a big way. The enhanced presence also generates competition and benefits the armed forces who have access to the required level and quality of products within the country in order to maintain their operational edge. Considering the importance of this subject, IAF has partnered with SIDM to organize this event. From a D&D environment in which CEMILAC and DGAQA interacted earlier with only a handful of players, namely the DRDO, the services, and the DPSUs, today the Indian military aerospace industry is fielding a host of private entities ranging from global transport aircraft manufacturers to MSMEs designing and offering systems from armed UAVs to TR modules for AESA radars. We have on the stage today the domain experts in the field, along with senior leadership and well-experienced members from the industry. We are also fortunate to have both the Chief Executive from CEMILAC and Director General of the AQA to provide their perspectives and solutions. With all major stakeholders amongst us today, I am confident that today's seminar would help us gain a better understanding on the roles of certification and qualification and establish a better connect between the certification authorities, the D&D agencies, industry professionals, and the end users. Keeping the ease of doing business in mind, it is imperative that we find new means of simplifying procedures and making test and qualification facilities easily accessible to the private industry. However, without losing sight of the twin cardinal tenets of safety and assured quality. With this, may I now request Air Marshal C.R. Mohan, Senior Maintenance Staff Officer, Headquarters Maintenance Command, to give us the IAF perspective on the subject. So.
Okay, got it. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. With so much blue uniform in this audience, I will be preaching to the converted. And it's a little relief to know even that this is going on YouTube. Hopefully, the people for whom it's intended are listening. I noticed that even some members of the audience who are ex-Air Force people have also come in blues. And some whom I thought were civilian are actually my classmates from DRDO. So, IAF is the lead service for military aviation assets and has many decades of experience in certifying indigenous airborne stores as part of sustenance of the wide variety of IAF's assets. I think the Indian private industry is at the cusp of transformation in the indigenous R&D and manufacture of airborne stores. I hope you noticed the twist in my title slide. I have switched the subheading and the heading. I thought the subheading appeared as if it is the biggest problem in supporting private sector to promote indigenous R&D and manufacture, which I don't think is the case. An overwhelming proportion of national military aviation assets are sourced from the erstwhile Soviet Union states. We had one upheaval in the early 90s when the Soviet Union collapsed, and there was major supply chain realignments. after its collapse. Many challenges were resolved. In fact, the IAF is better placed to look after Russian assets than Western assets today because of this. However, somehow the overall maintenance dependency on OEMs remained. As DPSUs were primarily licensed producers, they were trying to put up a brave face as OEMs and help the IAF maintain a combat edge of the aging assets. We are grateful for the DPSUs for having done that. The Russia-Ukraine conflict has led to an entirely different set of challenges in ensuring a reliable supply chain due to factors which is beyond our control. This is when we have extensive dependence on overall technologies, spares, consumables, and kits on OEMs from this bloc. The fallout of the conflict is unlikely to stop with these two key suppliers. The inflation in Europe is likely to lead to higher prices of goods and services, which will increasingly strain our already stretched budgets. Therefore, in my piece, I would like to entirely focus on challenges in energizing the Indian private aerospace industry for complete self-reliance in maintenance of military aviation assets. For starters, the aerospace industry is a highly regulated industry. And rightly, certification is flagged as a key issue in this discussion. Even the best of the best have made horrible mistakes. Atmanirbharta puts our regulatory staff, whose leadership is sitting here, on a steep learning curve. And they are putting up a brave face as we have progressed through indigenously designed aircraft and weapon systems. The DDP mass has metamorphosized into IMTAR 21, which has become a very, very large book and can be extremely daunting for somebody who is not from this industry. This is also being augmented with a host of other regulatory mechanisms in an aim to make it simpler to understand. I really hope the industry doesn't get scared of the size of the IMTAR 21. That's the first point. Its idea is to make it simpler for you. For a newcomer, this can be daunting, and the cries for regulators to be branded as red tape is loud and clear to all of us. But that's a dangerous trend and a dangerous path to tread. For example, in the aerospace industry, there is no low value or high value indigenous spares. We have only low impact and high impact spares. On 28 Jan 1986, the Space Shuttle Challenger exploded into pieces 73 seconds after liftoff. The solid rocket boosters flew uncontrollably. They broke up, the external tanks separated and the shuttle from the shuttle stack and killed all 7 astronauts on board. The cause was a low-value O-ring seal, which failed in the right solid rocket booster due to cold weather and wind shear, as the shuttle was parked on its launch pad for longer than expected. It is not that the engineering team didn't know about this. They fought with the project management team. Sorry, this shuttle shouldn't be launched. And in management, they teach you what is called groupthink. And how the project managers did convince the engineers through this fooling process called groupthink and resulted in the launch of the shuttle, and the rest is history. Downrating good engineering judgment can spell disaster for safety in the aerospace industry. So therefore, the industry is full of extremely eloquent, smart marketing managers. They must be kept out of engineering groupthink. They can convince any engineer to say yes for murder. More recently, the 737 MAX story, which happened to a company of engineering excellence, par excellence, which changed its focus from commercial and marketing, is open for all of us to see. To cut the long story short, aerospace companies must be companies of engineering excellence first. Bypassing the regulator is not an option. Repeat, not an option. However, Developing intellectual capital to provide the necessary safety assessments and documentation is possible. And that needs to be a strategic capacity build-up within any organization expecting to participate in volumes in the aerospace industry. The industry should get the ability to develop processes and assure quality. Old hands in the business, such as the Indian Air Force, DPSUs, can play a role in helping the private sector in this respect. I thought I will hear a laugh. Presently, the military treats the RCMA and DGAQ as gates that prevent poor quality equipment designs and build quality, respectively. This is such an onerous responsibility and would be increasingly impractical to do when the volumes increase by Semilac. We can see it in the nervousness of Semilac personnel. In the name of developing QTPs, they are revised and tightened and tightened and tightened through the execution of the project to the dismay of the company executing it. They insist on hard copies, properly signed, like they insist for financial documents. It's not that they are being nasty, it's just that they're being nervous. The volume is so much, and today we look at them as the gates for safety. If something goes wrong, well, it's at Semilac clearance, how did it go wrong? So that is an attitude we have to change. We can't make them responsible for this. Of course, the proverbial joke is that when they excavate an aircraft factory or a D&D factory 1,000 years from now, they will think that the factory was a paper factory, which was so rich as to own a few aircraft. The legal responsibility for quality of design and build should therefore always be part of the supplier. It should not be Semilac's or DGAQ's job to certify correctness of design, certify correctness of build. It's the supplier. Toyota doesn't have Semilac. So that's how it should be. The process of self-reliance and maintenance does not involve any new revolutionary designs and is usually parts or whole of an established electromechanical or an avionics system. Even airframe and aero engine life extensions or revisions are fairly well-oiled processes the world over. The Americans have a mill standard for nearly anything, from components right up to a complete aircraft. The Europeans equally have defense standards, which dictate the general requirements for each and every aircraft system for it to be safe. We just need to catalog an approved list of established standards against which systems or components are to be built. Thereafter, it should be the responsibility of the supplier to design, develop, and build to those standards and demonstrate compliance through accredited laboratories. Semilac obviously should be breathing down these laboratories to make sure they don't give fudgy certifications, if I may say so. We have seen that repeatedly happening, that you get a certificate from a laboratory, accredited, NABL accredited laboratory, you just send the same sample to another laboratory, you find that it is not compliant. So that's a problem. So Semilac should actually breathe down the neck of these accredited laboratories to make sure that they don't give us fraud certificates. The release to service based on compliance submitted should be the duty of care that needs to be the responsibility of certification authorities. Such a shared responsibility can avoid reinventing QTPs as a science project for every indigenization. The IAF has the intellectual capacity to assist Semilac in this matter due to our vast experience in operations and project execution. Even before established players like us, IAF, HAL, Bell, can help, we have seen foreign OEMs hand-holding Indian private industry with methods and certification. For example, Apache AH-64 fuselages are being built at Hyderabad by the Tata Group. This group has also delivered and certified the first F-16 wing in December last year. When this wing is fitted onto a Pakistani F-16, I would like to have a little chat with them. Acquis Private Limited, Dynamatic Technologies, these companies have secured contracts from Boeing and Airbus for component manufacture. L&T is into avionics software development, verification and validation roles with Airbus. Dasu Reliance Aerospace Limited, Thales Reliance Defense Systems have successfully gone online with aerostructures and avionics business with French companies. This list is growing and is impressive, but entirely for the international market. This can be a seed for organically developing intellectual capital within major players, both in industry and the regulatory authorities. With this trend, the journey from know-how to know-why may be faster for private industries when compared to DPSUs. This is a positive trend and should be sustained. Facilities, processes, human capital, intellectual capital, supply chain management, performance monitoring, safety audits, and good old surveillance all form a kaleidoscope of activities that result in quality assurance. The maturity of a QA system can put a regulator at ease and can even lead to self-certification of products, leading to very limited regulatory surveillance as such. The IAF and HAL can play a key role in leading Indian industry up this value chain. Due to the highly equipment-centric nature of our force, the IAF maintains a certain level of core competence in maintenance in depth in our BRDs. This organic capability is extremely critical for us to see success of our surge operations in contested conditions where we would not have support of any industrial person in civil dress at our forward bases. We need to have full control over our reliability of our equipment and simultaneously ensure a surge of aircraft-ready human resources where needed. However, we have come to realize that we can be leaner by identifying core and non-core tasks that can be carried out through outsourced human resources while keeping process planning, control, and QA in our hands. Where we are trying to carry out life extensions, refurbishments, replacements as part of obsolescence management, we could partner with industry to bring their technological strength while depending on the IAF for assistance in quality assurance and certification. We have floated 34 expressions of interest, few more being floated as we speak. Our staff are standing by in our stall to interact with industry on this type of responsibility shared proposal. We have floated expressions of interest for fighters, transports, helicopters, aero engines, avionics, for a full range of support options from life extension strategies, ROH technologies, and refurbishment and replacements. We look forward to wholehearted participation from the private industry. The defense aerospace business is a capital intensive business and demands long gestation periods and high risk due to the dependence on export markets for profit generation. For the Indian private aerospace sector, at such a nascent stage, this type of risk is best taken by government or DPSUs. HAL's order books have been filled up till 2030 for capital assets that are required as of yesterday. There may be a win-win opportunity for private sector to participate in a larger way by relieving HAL from repair and overhaul of IAF assets by taking over the management of relevant business units. HAL can then focus on a higher rate and quality of production for the ordered fighters, transports, and helicopters, and progressively exploit the export markets to recover our investments during the long gestation D&D for these assets. We have made impressive investments in defense research, scientific research, and an exemplary system of top engineering institutions, always willing to partner with the IAF and the DPSUs. Other than CSIR and academic laboratories, all others are required to work on prototype products for the defense. We could think of opening up our defense laboratories, including those in public sector, for research funded by private industry, for products and services being designed against military operational requirements to ensure accountability of these institutes and delivery timelines. Indeed, we could consider direct research funding only for fundamental scientific research and projectize entire research fund management by making it mandatory to have an industry front-end investment for a finished project, either strategic or military, which will then fund the DRDO and the other research laboratories. In conclusion, I just want to make 3 points. The IAF can partner with private industries willing to develop an MRO ecosystem retaining only core competencies. We could partner with CEMILAC
to map existing international standards of compliance for the industry to bring predictability and transparency in certification. We could partner with private industry to engineer replacements and refurbishments for self-reliance in sustenance, catalyze the use of research and development centers established under DPSUs or DRDO or CSIR and IITs through projectized funding models, and act as a bridge between industries and certification agencies. I've finished. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. The Air Marshal brought out certain key aspects which I'm sure will come up in the questions. The fact that aerospace industry, especially military, is extremely highly regulated. This regulatory overload needs to be balanced with the safety requirements which are immutable. He also brought out the capability of the local industry in the new framework as they are expanding, and highlighted the Indian Air Force expertise in this domain, its past experience and its ability to contribute both in the regulatory framework as well as the partnering local industry in the research domain. I'm sure this will be explored more in questions. I now request CE Semilac, Shri Prasad, to please deliver his talk.
A warm good afternoon to all my senior colleagues and all the friends from all the stakeholders of Indian aviation industry. It was an eye-opener to me today. I was always thinking we Similac, we make the end customers nervous, but today sir told we are also nervous about the whole thing. So I'll promise you we'll make both the stakeholders smiling in the next 1 year. That is the promise on this platform from CE Similac. And let us see what are the enabling factors, what are the steps I am putting in place. I've taken over as CE Similac in the year 2019, just for the sake of, to drive home the point that I am empathetic to all your concerns. I'm a designer with 33 years background. So a designer has become CE Similac, so no one else can be more empathetic to the problems of the designers and all the stakeholders. So with this at the background of me, I've taken a lot of initiation. And we have done a lot of changes. We have corrected ourselves. Last 2 years, I took what are the corrections has to be done in Similac. We have put in place. The results of which we are going to see from 23 onwards. And as part of my presentation, I am going to request and plead with all the stakeholders, since we are correcting ourselves, what are the efforts you have to put from your side to make this happen, make this whole process short and sweet. So basically, what is the certification role? What exactly certification? It is a lot of abstraction is assigned to the word certification in the Indian context. So I will just try to remove that abstraction. And then what are the various reforms we are taking at Similac, the technical reforms, the procedural transformation, and the fast tracking efforts. So basically this is my favorite slide which I would like to present to all the things. Keenly see this. Unlike land-based systems and ship-based systems to the large extent, any aeronautical systems, if you design only for performance, which we tend to do. As a youngster, when I made Lakshya, which was the first tri-service induction, I was a reasonably good designer. I was very happy. We have gone and inducted. The then Air Commodore. Those days, Air Commodore was a very big man. He was a nice friend to me. At the end of the day dinner party, he put a hand on my shoulder and told Prasad, "Tera system mera spouse jaisa hai." The way it performs every day, every morning, summer, winter, after 6 months, it is different. Its reaction is different, its mood is different, its functionality is different. I got a little cheesed up on that day, but looking back, it was a great statement. So I am one of the few who got this privilege of getting the understanding what a user wants. It is just not the technology, the level of technology, it is also the repeatability, the reliability, the lifing. If you see all the 6 circles, unfortunately in aeronautical systems, there is no way you can subsume these other 6 circles at the fag end of the journey. Please mark this. I'll appeal to all the senior technical vice presidents of the R&D organizations. Most of the young designers, they do this mistake of what I have done. I appeal to all of them. when they take up the design at equal to 0, if they don't ensure that the design is for all the 6 circles, design for design validation, design for testing, design for manufacturability, design for life. If these things are not addressed, there is no way you can subsume this at the fag end of the day, especially aeronautical systems. And what is the role of certification? We do not have the knowledge to check the correctness of the design. I think it is a totally misconception in the minds of lot of design fraternity. You are the kings. Designer knows it all. We do not know better than you. Then what are we supposed to do? We check the design adequacy and we check the test adequacy. This is the only 2 roles we are supposed to do and we should be doing. If anyone from Similac oversteps this, you have all the right to question it, and please write a mail to me. You can drop in a mail. We have an ombudsman and redressal mechanism last year onwards in Similac. So we ensure these 2 things, and in the subsequent slides, I'll show you how the design adequacy and test adequacy. We are nobody. We do not have the requisite design knowledge to check the correctness of the design. Please rest assured. Designer is the king. But unfortunately, in aeronautics, process is the emperor. Process. What is process? It is a structured, methodical way of doing design, validation, and testing. And how is a process captured? Through various reports and documents. So the process has to be ingrained from the entire product lifecycle development. You can, if you are making a document, any aeronautical designer, manufacturer is making documents and test rigs at the fag end of the product lifecycle development. Rest assured, as a designer with 33 years experience, I'll make a comment, it will be a suboptimal product. Yes, if you are a Leonardo da Vinci, you may pull it off and do the corrections at the fag end of the journey. But at what time and cost is the question mark? And this slide very clearly spells out this. We have picked up from an international statistical survey. Almost 8 years back, I have gone through this slide. I have hyped it up just to communicate and convey the point more effectively to the audience. If you see the y-axis is the cost, time, and effort required to do a course correction, and the x-axis is the various stages of a product lifecycle development. The first one is the requirement capture from the users, which is a QR document. Here is where even I did this mistake. We should convert this requirement documents into a detailed requirement document based on the CONOPS document, which internationally all the Air Force agencies, I think our Air Force calls it as operational requirement document. You may all say, what is this new thought process for this CE Similac is bringing out? You are all asking me to optimize the rigor of testing, tailor the international MIL standards, but on what basis I'll do it? I can do this tailoring of MIL standards based on 2 requirements, which only Air Force with the designers and regulatory bodies should put their heads down together and in a synergetic mode evolve that. If I have to tailor the MIL standards, I have to optimize the design. If I have to optimize the design, I should know the concept of operations, where all the design trade-off parameters required has to be captured upfront. Which requirement is priority 1, which requirement is priority 2, which requirement is priority 3. Unfortunately, this happens when AST steps into the flight testing and he conveys to the designer. That is the first time where designer comes face to face with the AST or any equivalent body of similar class. And it is too late in the day to change the design, to change the optimization. And all of you should understand, most of the design parameters, they are trade-off parameters. And it will have a huge bearing on size, weight, and power. Unfortunately, we have been for too long following MIL standards blindly. We should understand they are only guidelines. We should tailor the MIL standard, and it will have a huge bearing on the size, weight, and power, which are of paramount importance in Indian aeronautics. None other than Air Force will appreciate better this. So I will try to sell this package to the private industry this way. You have to follow system engineering practices in aeronautics. There is no other shortcut. It is a structured, methodical way. And you may question me, Prasad, what happens if I do not follow this? This slide is the answer. If you, private industry, unlike DRDO, you have 2 important requirements in your specification document, other than the technical requirements, that is time to market and return on investment. Please rest assured, if you do not follow system engineering, these 2 requirements of yours will never be met. Because if you see this slide, the time and cost of certification for correction, the later it is, you will put in more man-hours, more time, more cost. So it is in your interest you follow system engineering. And I'm telling you, you need not do anything additional for certification. If you follow system engineering practices, you will be developing all the requirements along your journey, and I'm assuring you, Similac will be unemployed in the country. So please do this, follow this for aeronautical system. You will see regulatory body will be almost invisible in this country. So now quickly, because of the shortage of time and not going to the complete presentation, let me quickly, to convey the confidence, we are here to do handholding to the Indian industry. I'll just give you a brief glimpse of various reforms we are carrying out at Similac. The first thing is, I'll address the first concern of Mohan sir, too much documentation, and that too ink signed copy. Absolutely right, he's right, we do not have any right, we have technology enablers. We are starting a e-portal wherein the entire workflow of Similac certification will be captured, digitized. The data center is ready, the software development, the modules are ready. The security solution, because we are addressing the systems required for our end users, so some amount of security confidentiality has to be there. The security solution is taking some time. I'm almost confident next year, the first or second quarter, we'll be launching this e-portal, wherein you will not see any nervous Similac guy sitting across the table to you. You will be doing it, uploading it online. And I'll ensure that every website, there'll be a smiley on the thing to give you that comfort zone. Okay, that is my promise. Okay. And I'm trying to bring in time-bound Similac clearances certification, and we have initiated to capture what is the time required for various certification process. Like you go to a bank, DD takes 20 minutes. It's easier said than done, but I'm trying to bring it. We'll do a pilot launch of it. And even the corrections which our people do, and there is a complaint that every time we go back, they get more educated, they get more visibility, and they keep changing the goalpost. You're partly right. So to ensure that we ourselves will do the corrections, because when we don't know what is wrong, we should know what is right. So I'm requesting my Similac colleagues to capture the corrections in a color-coded manner and send it back. And even with a digital signature, we are planning to clear the document. So I hope, sir, this reform will address the two major concerns of Mohan Saab, what he brought out. You have made my job easier because you posed the questions for my answers. Thank you, sir. So the next thing, most important thing was the DDP-MAS. We understood it was very clumsy, difficult to understand and assimilate for a non-aeronaut, first generation aeronautical designer. Most of them are first generation in our country today. So we made it modular, scalable, and we brought it into subparts, subchapters. Unlike earlier, you need not read the entire DDP-MAS, you just read the policy part, and then you go to that subpart. Like you are working in UAV, there's a 20-page, 30-page. So the top-level policy document gives the direction guidelines. The requirements will tell how to enable certification. And now we are bringing in forms and regulations, that is the reports, analysis, documents, templates, how we are going to convert that certification process into tangible things. Today it is not in paper, it will be online. And this e-certification will address your concern of IP protection and security also. We'll give access rights, whichever you consider IP, because we do not have a strong legal framework in the country to protect IP. It is humanly impossible for me to protect your interests if you share all the things. So we will not ask you to show these documents. You can come in person, and I have put a committee to put some out-of-box thinking, how to do non-intrusive certification, which is a major concern of all the Indian industry today. Our colleagues at Similac are really coming up with some innovative solutions. In DDP-MAS version 3, those reforms will be kicking in, I'm promising you. So we have broadly divided these reforms into phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Phase 1, we brought in some restructuring of Similac, DDP-MAS version 1.0. In phase 2, we are bringing this e-portal, and Mohan Saab brought one more point, that we should do handholding to the nascent Indian manufacturing industry, who are showing that enthusiasm to get into this uncharted territory of aeronautical business. So I have taken that step also. Today in an aircraft, except fastener, there is software and firmware in every subsystem. It is going to play a major role in terms of time and cost requiring pushing this. And unfortunately, the appreciation and the resources required today in the industry are suboptimal, I will say. So we are starting 3 centers in Similac. One is the software center for testing and certification. So when a MSME industry, they cannot afford this costly software resources, you can come to us. We'll guide you how to write an SRD, FRD document. We have brought all the requisite design tools. I've hired CMM level 5 people from HCL and other companies to write the test cases for you, to use the design tool and ensure that you are successful. We will no more question that Pappu fail ho gaya, we'll ensure Pappu pass ho raha hai. That is the spirit behind this setting up of these centers. Similarly, we have a lot of FPGAs, firmware testing tools. I have bought all the design tools required. We are hiring the manpower. Last 2 years, senior MOD has been extraordinarily supporting me. They have given me close to 150 crores to enable all this thought process and this infrastructure. Unfortunately, because of COVID, I am 6 months behind. The data center is just getting set up. It should have come up 6 months back. We are setting up one data center at Bangalore and one disaster recovery center at Hyderabad. And third center is, a lot of you asked to me, optimize the rigor of testing. Mohan Saab also said, yes, we should learn to believe the designers, we should optimize the rigor of testing. On what basis I'll optimize the rigor of testing? One is the ConOps document, the other is the system safety analysis document. For the convenience of it, any system in aeronautics is categorized into 4 or 5, catastrophic critical, safety critical, mission critical, ground critical, and the other is standard part. Problem is, if you want me to optimize the rigor of testing, first you should tell me the component part subsystem you are developing falls into which category. Automatically, the rigor of testing, the rigor of documentation falls by an order of magnitude from each of this. Unfortunately, today in our country, we do not have the tool availability nor the resources to do this. So we are setting up one center, the third center, that is the system safety analysis, so that we will know upfront under what category this subsystem falls, and accordingly we'll optimize. I'll not use the word dilute. Never ever use the word dilute. It is a classic recipe for failure and the aircraft will not come back. At the most, we can optimize. We can optimize all the certification processes to the point that safety is not compromised, functionality is not compromised. Now coming to functionality, yes, there are startups. So we have brought resolutions in the DDP mass. R&D phase, the stringency, the criteria for certification have been optimized. We are taking a staircase approach. Then we come to the LSP phase, wherein more tightening norms will be put in. And when they come to series production, we will ensure none of the design, manufacturer, production deviations are propagated and multiplied into series production. All of you should understand, Semilac, you expect them to give concessions. We do give concessions, but unfortunately, the concessions given in R&D phase are carried through into the production phase. I can give you a lot of examples, most successful projects where the concessions given by Semilac regulatory bodies have been carried inadvertently into the production phase, and we are paying a lot of time and cost to do the corrections, because it will be very difficult to do a retrofit in an operationally airworthy aircraft. So the Air Force also should understand we are sitting here to protect their interests. And I'm promising you, sir, Air Force is my top priority. You are serving the frontiers of the country. We will not leave any effort not to help you out. So rest assured, it's a promise from me. Air Force interest will be, Indian aviation interest will be our topmost priority. I'm putting a proposal in this forum. I keep doing it on all these stages. After 2002, after I took over, within 1 year, we have released the DDP mass. We have studied all the international certification procedures in the world to the extent possible, where the documents are available. During COVID time, all my colleagues, I should thank all of them. They came to office and helped me in evolving. And it is not a simple effort from Semilac. The Joint Airworthiness Committee, where DGQA, Air Force, and the private industry, I thank all of them. They have given an extraordinary effort, but yes, all their wish list, I am pretty sure I could not have fulfilled in version 1, because we cannot do any modification in the DDP mass to address individual concerns. It should withstand the scrutiny of all the systems across the diversity of its functionality. There should not be any failure mode in any constitutional amendment I do in the DDP mass. Unfortunately, each designer, we become emotional. We get a problem in the development of that product, we become emotional and we come to Semilac, where is the solution for this in DDP mass? DDP mass is an overarching guideline document. We cannot bring every resolution in the DDP mass. And as I already said, DDP mass is very voluminous. If I keep bringing resolutions and addressing all your problems, it will become more difficult for you to understand and resolve your points. And criticality-based rigor of certification is the only way to optimize your rigor of testing. I am pretty sure 80% of the aeronautical R&D labs do not have the system safety analysis tools. We should and must do this. Otherwise, you cannot ask us to optimize the rigor of testing. And it is not APUS Prasad proposing this. Worldwide, this is the only way it is done. If anyone have a difference of opinion or your thought process is at variance with me, you are free to question me. We are conducting every month industry interaction meetings across all cities. We have started from Lucknow, the RM's constituency. We have done it in Hyderabad, and we'll keep doing it over the next 12 months at various places, wherein CE Similac himself is sitting through the panel discussions of 2 to 3 hours. All your concerns we'll try to address. If your concern is not addressed, I'm promising you in the new version 3.0, you need not be apprehensive. We missed the bus in version 1.0, 2.0. It will be a continuous effort, and on this platform, I request SIDM to help me, because there was a feedback that when we start this upgradation of DDP mass, they do not know when we start this, when we end this. So next time onwards, we thought of this as a solution. If SIDM and Air Force can help me out on this, we will send this updated draft document. You can send it across to disseminate it across to all the industry partners, and online you can give the feedback, and the Joint Airworthiness Committee will deliberate it, discuss it, and whatever it takes to optimize, it will be incorporated in version 3.0. And all of you should understand, this DDP mass document is not a wish list of Similac. It is the wish list of a Joint Airworthiness Committee, which is constituted of who is who of all the stakeholders of Indian aviation industry. So it's a joint responsibility. Similac cannot change on its own. It is a joint responsibility. It is driven by all the stakeholders, and you are absolutely having that freedom to put in your points to the JAC, and any concerns of Similac also, we're going to gracefully address it and overcome if required. And this is the very important slide, all the private industries. All over the country, what is system engineering? I did a brief stint in GE in the beginning of my career. Any requirements, they write on the vertical axis, it's a matrix, requirement 1, 2, 3, 4. And the row is test 1, test 2. Test 1 equipment can be an oscilloscope or a multimeter. Then test 2, it will be a special type test equipment. Test 3, you need a jig, fixture, rig, simulator. In aeronautics, if you are costing X for the entire product life cycle, rest assured only 20% is BOM and your design cost. The rest 80% is catering to this test requirement traceability matrix. And when you are developing safety critical systems, the rig which is used to clear the safety critical airborne system also has to be certified. It is not an arbitrary requirement of Similac. World over, this is how it is done. And here after the product is inducted, we try to make all the rigs, jigs, fixtures and simulators. The very purpose for which they have been mandated in system engineering is defeated. Because most of these test rigs are not test rigs for compliance testing. They are design validation test rigs and simulators which will help you in an iterative process. You may question me, why an iterative process? I have been a designer. Most of the design projects in India are inverse design ideas. They are a euphemism for reverse engineering. And the modeling, simulation and analysis capability in the country today is not so high. So it should be a hybrid model. There's nothing wrong. I've been a successful designer adopting a hybrid model. So where certification is based on knowledge base or database. What is knowledge base? Modeling, simulation, analysis. What is database? It is testing and experimentation. Unfortunately, in our country, the technology readiness levels are not very high. That implies the modeling, simulation, analysis capability is not high. So we have to resort to the other model of development, that is experimentation and testing. And unfortunately, this is where we call for very large number of testings and experimentation. So if you want to address the root cause problem, what is ailing the Indian aeronautical development industry is, you should invest in modeling, simulation, analysis, and design validation test facilities. So you can tell me when the time is over, I'll cut down. Can I peel off? Yes. So we are taking the staircase approach also. So we are doing a lot of procedural transforms, and Please rest assured, we are here. We want to have a proactive approach of certification. Earlier it was reactive approach. I appreciate we have corrected ourselves and we will continue to correct. Please rest assured. And some of the points I tried to put it in a subtle way across. It is not that all is not wrong with the regulatory bodies. Some corrections have to come from the other stakeholders and we have to toe the middle line to make this a happy event. Thank you all. Jai Hind.
Thank you. I think CEMILAC has very clearly brought out the importance of a robust design process, the importance of system engineering in this development process, and highlighted the phase-wise reforms which are being undertaken by CEMILAC. He's also brought out his hand-holding and interactions with the industry, which I'm sure the industry will capitalize on to understand and to further interact and provide inputs which CEMILAC will take on. Thank you, sir. We're running a little behind time, so I'd request the subsequent speakers to keep that in mind. May I now request Sri Sanjay Chawla, the Director General of Aeronautical Quality Assurance Agency, to please address the audience.
Very good afternoon, one and all. At the outset, I thank SITM and Air Force of inviting us. The point raised by Air Marshal Mohan regarding, DDP mass and regulatory bodies role certification, of course, adequately covered by my earlier speaker, CEMILAC. One thing I want to bring out recently, one international study group, the Boston Consulting Group, they have carried out a comprehensive study on the regulatory framework in our country for military aviation. They went through each and everything of DDP mass, the present DDP mass document. They went through the documents which are existing presently in US and UK. And also European unions. And after their comprehensive study for 2 to 3 months, that was the MOD DDP study. Of course, probably Air Force was not that time involved directly. And they could come out that whatever our document is there, that is perfectly on lines of the international documents which are existing in the Western world. Of course, they could not study the Russian systems because those things were not available. Okay. Sorry. So in that sense, this BCG bring out 3-4 things. One major thing which they brought out was that some level of enhanced delegation or self-certification can be given to the industry in our country as on the lines of in US or UK. But for that, in those countries, there is a regulatory framework, there is a legal framework available with the act of their parliaments. So they said with some kind of a legal framework where you can add some kind of a financial penalties or some kind of other legal penalties, we can give definitely more legal, delegation where there can be probably delegation of even forming the QTP for, let us say, non-critical or even mission-critical stores, as also quality assurance clearance for a non-critical or mission-critical stores. So those things, after going a comprehensive study, there are only 2 major recommendations, and that also we are likely to address in the next DDP mass, which probably we wanted to rush through in this DEF Expo. Somehow it could not be done, and probably in the next Aero India show it may come. So, in that sense, I just want to bring out Air Marshal Mohan's this, that whatever we are doing, of course, to extent a lot of reforms are being taken place under Atmanirbhar Bharat Make in India project, but definitely whatever the roles which we have been discharging, this is still quite, as compared to the Western world, as compared to Russian systems. So we are much more working on those directions, and with more kind of things like legal reforms, this can go further way. So I'll go through my presentation, which is a I'll cover in 4 issues. A small introduction about the organization, role, functions, the methodologies which we adopt, and some recent initiatives under Make in India and Atmanirbhar Bharat. We were set up in 1954, now almost 7 decades, providing QA coverage for all the military aviation stores for Air Force, Army Aviation, Naval Aviation. We feel proud that Dr. Kalam, our ex-president, they started his professional career with DTD and PAR. We are also nodal agency for MSQA and SSQAG, who are for the missile systems. Presently, we are having 47 field establishments. A small spread out of ours. Recently, last year, we added 5 establishments, north in Mamoon near Pathankot, Panchkula in Bell, Misamari northeast for Army Aviation, Kasargod in Kerala, and Chennai in Bell to cover the whole country. primarily for the defense corridors in Tamil Nadu and UP also. These are our interactions with various stakeholders in military aviation. Final acceptance inspection authority is our role. During design and development, we are more in an advisory role where SAMILAC has a major role to play, but we do provide inputs for the formulation of quality QTPs, carrying out all the testing, coordinating the testing, QTRs, and post issue of type approval, the issue of quality assurance plans and ATP documents. We also provide support to armed forces, MOD and protection agencies as per the DAP and DPM guidelines. These are some of the guidelines which most of you are aware as per the DPM, RFP, FET, CNC, contract vetting, airworthiness certification process, and formulation of QAPs, PDI, JRI activities. DI incident investigations, we are a member in the Court of Inquiries. And life extension studies, of course, we also cover inputs. We are giving approval to the main contractors on the quality management system, the aviation test OCs, the QC, lab personnel. I'll cover this in detail. During design and development of GSE stores, the specifications as well as the provisional clearance and type approval is given by DGAQA. SAMILAC is covering for all airborne stores. For ground stores, TTs, the certification portion also is handled by DGAQA. Quality audits all in systems, product, process. This is our regular activity in the main contractor's place, as also the JQA audits which Air Force has taken a good initiative, and that is being done concurrently in the DPSUs as well as in the units. HSP functions to some extent for the products which are TOT to where mostly in ordnance factories like air armament stores and the parachute stores that we carry out. Of course, for the major military aviation equipments like aircraft platforms and all, the HSP is not restricted with DGAQA. It is the main contractor is still having all the HSP food role also they do. Capacity assessment and registration of the firms and the labs. This earlier was done by Air Force. We are now carrying out the assessment and registration of the firms. With these, they can bid for the tender inquiries against the central procurement. Last year, as a part of the initiative in Make in India, the third-party inspection bodies were approved by us, which can work on behalf of the main contractor for carrying out the PDI at their subcontractor end, so that the HAL inspectors can more focus on the main aircraft systems rather than carrying out inspection at their subcontractor end. So we have about 7 or 8 bodies, which LCA project is very regularly utilizing these, who are carrying out the inspections at their vendor end. Product certification under Defense Export Promotion Scheme, this is one of the new initiatives, wherein without any formal order, the industry can seek for the certification of their products, whether it's a ground-based stores or the aviation products. And as it takes a lot of time sometimes for the testing and evaluation, so pending order, they can develop the store, get it certified. We issue them the certificates for fit for military use, and for that, they can immediately supply the stores as they get orders from the Indian users, or they can also explore parallelly the export market as well. AQ directives are regularly issued as part of our QA work. One new quality rating maturity model we have developed last 2 years, and this has been jointly developed with the Indian Air Force, HAL and DGAQA, wherein we are assessing the quantitative analysis of the firm's manufacturing capabilities. We are doing presently on experimentation basis in 3 HAL divisions, one MRO division, one Sukhoi manufacturing, and recently in Korva also being electronic division, we have started this as a model. We are further developing this model, which we intend to use particularly in private sector as they come up more in military aviation. We are overseeing the QA functions in industry towards compliance of stipulated QA requirements as per the orders from the users. There is a continual study and upgrade the QA methodologies at par with the best global practices. In that sense, we have one present agreement with our counterpart in France, that is DQA, and there is an Indo-French agreement wherein stores can be inspected by each other's GQA on some limited inspection charges. Of course, much of the import is from that side, and that these GQ organizations, and similar way on the with the Spanish DAGAM and US DCMA, we are in dialogue to have these bilateral agreements to facilitate export of stores from our Indian industries to those countries, wherein those countries GQA need not come here and carry out inspection. We may do this on their behalf on mutual basis at each other's place. This will also avoid carrying out much of PDIs, which for import stores we send the teams there. So this we are working out with our international counterparts. We are called as TAA in the last DDP mass, that is along with Semilec. These are our roles in a totality. It's already covered. We follow a risk-based preventive QA approach. I want to bring out that our cost of quality assurance is just 0.5% of the value of stores we inspect and clear. The global norms are 1 to 2%, and many other agencies are close to 5% of inspection charges. We are a very small organization. We don't believe in doing repetitive things, and we see that the system works in the main contractor, and if the system is working, we approve. That's why the personnel from the ground level, shop floor level to the head of the quality, and in that sense, wherever minimum role is required, that is being effected based on the criticality of the stores. I just covered AFQMS is a model which we had developed. That is also based on the original concept from the UK, and we are further improving it, and we intend to further revise it in the coming Aero India. That covers, of course, the AS 9100D quality management system requirements for the aero industry. The QC organization, I said, under DGAQA FMS, the QC organization is audited, and we give the approval to the personnel, and for that, the qualification, the training, the experience, their medical requirements are all listed in our document. These all our documents are also available on our website. As of now, 92 firms are holding DGAQA FQMS approval. Recently, with the corporatization of the ordnance factories, we were more doing the role of a QC rather than the QA. So they are also now being brought at par with other DPSUs like HAL and BEL. And I'm happy to say that out of 12 ordnance factories where we have resident offices, about 5 of them have got now AFQMS approval. They are also working towards having a QMS based on the international standards. Additionally, in the last we are also extending our AFQMS approval to private firms who have a mature process control and a quality management system. HBL batteries, for example, recently we accorded them a AFQMS approval towards self-certification. Inox, who are supplying gases. So these are the few firms in private sector also we are encouraging where they can get their AFQMS approval on the lines of one which we are having for oil refineries, where complete self-certification is there. This is some of the methodology we adopt. I'll skip a little bit. Of course, in addition to the AFQMS approval, we also carry out a limited direct inspection of GSE stores or aeromedical stores which are being developed by small firms. And a small joint inspection in case of imported stores, we are a member in the PDI and JRI. This is the QA process milestones. We have moved to the self-control. Our optimal goal is going towards the self-control and the delegation, where complete delegation can be done. We are working towards that. As we are giving delegation, we have also got some line of enforcement actions wherever during our audits or spot checks, whenever some lapses are observed on the part of the inspectors who are approved. So these actions are being taken, and regularly in HLs, the inspector approvals are being withdrawn, they are being giving warnings, so that some kind of a deterrent is there for the FQMS organization. These are some of our governing documents, DAP 20, DPM 9, DDP MAS, well, you all well aware of it. DGAQA has issued AFQMS issue 2, that is now under revision. SOP for capacity assessment, registration of firms, number of AQA directives, our organization manual, the policy documents on utilization of third-party inspection, which was as part of the Atmanirbhar Bharat, we have introduced this new concept. I encourage other DPSUs as well as industry partners, they can seek this TPI inspection, this document which is available. Work spectrum is general aeronautics, air armaments, missiles we are covering. Recently, as I brought out, we have given FQMS approval to private firms. We are delegating the QA activities to approved QC personnel during design and development phase. This is one of the new initiatives which we want to take, particularly initially for the non-critical stores. Autonomy to main contractor during development and production of aero materials. Recently, yesterday, you might have seen that Honorable Raksha Mantri has released a document on indigenization of aero materials, where about 5 new recommendations for ease of doing business for the industry, particularly for aero materials, has been done. The very first one is the timelines for the certification, like for Q2P, issue of QTP and ATP, we have given the timelines of 2 to 3 months for issue of QTP and 1 month for ATP subsequent to the issue of provisional clearance. Other thing in the aero materials was that they need to have 3 heats to get it certified to ensure repeatability of the results and the maturity of the process. So in that sense, for non-critical stores, aero materials, we have agreed to give with 1 heat the certification activity, so that this will also reduce the timelines, particularly for non-critical aero materials. This has been agreed jointly with Semilec. The third major reform in aero material is that for making heats, normally when you are making a 5 ton or 10 ton, and if you have to make 2 to 3 heats, that much of investment by industry is very cumbersome. In that sense, it has been decided that on a pilot level, the heat or the batch or the alloy can be fabricated, that can be inspected, tested, qualified, certified, and then later on, the scale-up model can be there by the industry. So this feature has been added recently. Our report was released yesterday by Honorable RM. Another thing which was already there in DDPMAS is without any order, of course, the materials can be developed. I'm happy to see that number of industries today, Star Wires and one in Nagpur, they are developing various alloys. Up till now, we were having Midhani as the only source, and there were a lot of times with regards to supplies and all. And these firms are already taking ab initio development. They are approaching us. We are already providing coverage during each and every critical stage of inspection and testing. And they are taking up those development and seeking certification, for which all the QTPs, everything has been approved by RCMA Semilec. And with that, we hope these aero materials, they will be quite faster. Presently, we are importing a large number of materials from other countries. So these are the few reforms which have been recently done in the last 1 month, and the report was released by yesterday. As regards to labs, about 13 test labs in the country, they have been approved by us. They can be utilized by industry for carrying out various testing. Third party I covered, it is there. I'll skip a little bit because of the paucity of time. This is the level of FQMS wherein our role is main on the main contractor. Only up to tier 1 vendors, even the tier 1 vendors we are covering based on the audit basis, and for flight critical stores, we are carrying out the stage inspection if it is part of the ATP. So otherwise, we are the whole complete autonomy is given to the main contractor to carry out the QC and QA functions down the line for the supply chain on tier 1, tier 2 vendors. Whenever there are any issues are there, we carry out audit and correct the system where the problems are there. These are the level of enforcement action which we touched. The maximum is the approval is withdrawn to the organization. Revision of DDPMAS, as I touched, it is ongoing presently. We had one meeting of JAC where a number of suggestions have been received. Of course, some suggestions were received quite late, and those have been, to some extent, have been incorporated. And I think we are going to have another meeting, and then whatever inputs we have got from industry, those will be added. And the next document is likely to be issued during Aero India, hopefully. This is the initiative which is there in the last DDPMAS. Without orders, the firms can develop the stores and get certified. This also I covered for export. This model I explained, this is we are doing in HL 3 divisions, and based on this we want to further extend in other belt divisions and other DPSUs. Herein the equal marking is given by the user, main contractor and the regulator. So based on the actual quantified outputs, this marking is given. As of now, we have done this in HL, Sukhoi division and MRO, but both the divisions could not pass the model and they were still below the threshold. So they could not qualify to get a kind of a self-certification, even in the manufacturing side. I mean, this is done on the each level for a manufacturing setup, for the sub-assembly, final assembly. So till now, they are still further improvement, and we have suggested them to improve their systems so that, they qualify under this. I covered, we are presently having Indo-French agreement. This agreement also not being actively utilized. I call upon industry friends, they can utilize this document And wherever we are looking for export to France or French companies, where there is a requirement of any GQA inspection, so this document is already available, this can be utilized, where the GQA activities can be given by DGAQA without inviting from the foreign organization. Into US, we are working with DCMA, and we have shared our documents with them. They are also sent our documents. We are going through. Hopefully this also, we expect to do it in a near future. With C295 project is coming, which is likely to be a game changer in the field of military aviation. We recently had a number of meetings with them, and we could finalize the common quality surveillance plan with the Airbus as well as the Tatas. And with this project, we are also in touch with Dagam, Spain, and we are also trying to have a bilateral agreements on GQA functioning with them. We have set up last year, as I said, about 5 new offices so as to cover the whole geography of our great nation. So 5 offices I already covered, these were done, that's all. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. Given us a very comprehensive overview of DGAQA, QA process and reforms. A couple of interesting points there about the legal framework requirement for self-certification and expanding QA support to the private sector. I'm sure that will be brought up subsequently. May I now request Sri Amol Thorat from Godrej, who represents SIDM here, to address the audience.
Good afternoon all. Thank you Indian Air Force and SIDM for providing this opportunity to Godrej and presenting industry perspective. What are our expectations from the regulatory bodies, so which are hindrances sometimes. Most of them are covered in the slides which are already presented by the dignitaries on the dais. So I will quickly go through considering the time. Okay, so just to give a brief that Godrej as a group, we are touching to 1.1 billion consumers every day. We are into 15 business verticals. Godrej Aerospace is a part of industrial products business of Godrej and Boyce Manufacturing Company, where these are the 4 verticals where we are working. Aerospace is also part of that. So in aerospace, we are catering to 3 segments. One is defense, second is space, and third is civil aviation. So we have 3 different plants who are supporting to these 3 sectors. Coming to defense, we are having manufacturing facility for BrahMos missile, LCA, flight actuators, solid motor casings, engines for missiles, interstage of missiles, pods and pylons. As a certification, what we have AS9100, which is a bare minimum requirement for any aerospace company. Along with that, we have gone ahead with the ISO 27001, which is an information security management system certification, which is very much required considering the records which we are maintaining. Those should be available at any point of time for investigations or any studies which are to be done. So those need to be retained lifelong. So we have gone ahead upfront from our side for these certifications, and as already told by sir, they are also into data centers and they are establishing 2 separate data centers. Similar way we have worked for in Godrej also, we have made 2 separate data centers for the records which are generated in Godrej. So along with that, we have all the normal certifications like 14,001, 45,001, 50,001 and 17,025 for material testing laboratory. And considering the activities which we are doing for civil aviation, there are mandatory requirements for NADCAP. So we have NADCAPs in various processes like chemical processing, heat treatment, NDT, then welding. And on those programs, we are on to merit side. And the new entrants like elastomer seals, now measurement and inspection, which is also a new added, non-conventional machining like EDM, wire cutting, all those are also covered under NADCAP. So current status of Indian private industry. So this slide will give why we are meeting today. Okay, so last 4-5 decades mainly involved in build to print. The Indian industry is mostly involved into build to print activities where the guidance was from DRDO side. Now we are slowly graduating to one level up. So PSUs attempted to involve private industries but largely failed due to long and L1 basis of selections. Delays and import restrictions dragged programs beyond financial viability, so industry lost interest. Offsets brought in global culture but failed to sustain and go beyond component level of production. mixed culture from all these different countries has somewhere felt us that our Indian way of manufacturing is not getting promoted. Okay, Similac and DJK, as they have already supported industry previously also and now also supporting, but there are some reforms which are required, which already most of the points are covered by the dignitaries in their presentation. Some of them needs to be addressed, which I will cover in the upcoming slides. So summing up, like raw material to specialized test facilities, our dependency is on global suppliers is huge. So that is one of the area of concern for all of us. Then collective working is the only answer, which together we have to work along with the Indian Air Force and these regulatory bodies so that we can deliver to the end user on time and as required by them, a reliable solution. Okay. Then essentials of good aerospace and defense systems. So this we all know what all the phases are there. So during the entire design to develop, hand-holding private industry and DGQA Similac taking it to global certification level is mandatory at this point of time. So not only demanding from their side what they need to do, there are certain things which we have to also do so that they have confidence on us. So as an industry, what we feel that where we should come up and we should contribute more is onto like design and simulations. So there should be more simulation softwares available with the industry so that we can simulate and give them confidence that whatever we have designed is up to the mark and that is going to sustain for the lifelong of the aircraft. Then supply chain development, so that is one of the area where we have to contribute from our side, develop small players or raw material manufacturers, educate them and come up with the specifications which are accepted internationally. Then manufacturing infrastructure, definitely it is industry scope. Then technology and machinery, manufacturing systems and quality systems. Training and skill development is one of the area where in the current scenario, lot of efforts are put by many people, but at the same time retention of the talent is one of the key area where we have to focus. And robot systems that will give first time and every time right. So if we are going to do this, then in that case, definitely all these governing bodies will support us more and more. Now what they can also support or what they need to do, that is certification and approving agencies, what they should focus is on standardization of system. So one common system for everything. So that will definitely help us. Then design validations, whatever are there, so based on software calculations, whatever are there, so that should be accepted from their side. Setting up quality norms and standard specifications across aerospace and defense. Process capabilities and journey towards zero defect. So that is the approach, the proactive engagement which already covered by them. So that is a good step forward from their side. So if they do proactive engagement, obviously we will also be benefited. Parity with global standards and certification norms, and product approvals and delegations. So delegations in the sense we don't ask for all the delegations to the industry because we have also a time required to get matured. So till the time, at least for non-critical items, they can think of to the industries which are matured enough to go for non-critical items. That is already covered from their side also. So each stakeholder shall fulfill its responsibilities, making product development easy and products shall be user-friendly. So systems and delegations, so here from our side, we are also putting efforts to make sure that we put right systems in place so that they can delegate more and more to us, because nobody wants to do all the work on his own. Everybody has willingness to delegate, but somewhere we are also failing, somewhere the systems are not developed. So delegations for product release, so these are the few things which we are trying to show, like how other OEMs are doing, like Safran, GE, Honeywell, Pratt & Whitney, all of them are considering that ASQ forum, whatever AS13001 specification they have come up. If anybody qualifies for that international exam, he is eligible for getting delegation for product release. Similar kind of standard systems we should come up so that it will qualify individuals, and that will help whether the individual moves from one industry to other industry, automatically the knowledge is getting transferred and new joinees can also join this momentum. Okay. Then way forward, what we expect is that development of equivalent system for design certification. So like all these engine manufacturers, they have come up with NADCAP certification. So NADCAP, what it does, so each engine manufacturer is having his own specification requirement and he wants the industry to meet and fulfill his requirement. But when they come for assessment or audit, that time they understood that it is not possible for somebody to get graduated immediately to that engine manufacturer's requirement level. So the approach what they adopted is that hire industry freelancer who is knowledgeable in the same sector, he will approach the industry. He will make the industry capable to reach to a certain level. Once the industry reaches to a certain level, then only the prime will come and approve them. So this is the approach they have adopted. Similar approach, if some certification mechanism can be developed from our side for design firms, let all the industries participate in those programs. Those who qualify in those programs, those will only get delegations, and then CEMILAC can come and DGO can come and add value over and above these industry platforms, so that their time is also not wasted for the industries which are not matured enough, and all industries will be weighed under same scale. Okay, then development of Indian standards for aerospace materials and equivalency of standards list to be published. So that is one of the expectations, because we feel that the materials which we require are very minimal quantities which are required. So we don't get any support from foreign OEMs for the minimum order quantity, as at the same time Indian standards are not accepted by designers. So that equivalency has to be established, and if that is available, then we can definitely go for more and more participation from private industry also. Then categorization of products based on criticality of components and delegation of non-critical items. Then engagement at initial phase and defining the test requirement with responsibility, that is already covered from their side. So digitization in the approval process to track the progress and submission in prescribed format. So all the documents, records, whatever are required, the forms are to be published online, so that no agency makes mistake in filling those forms. And one good step which was discussed before this seminar was that they are even coming up with RFP format, so that all the technical requirements are addressed in proper way. So such approach is required from the certification bodies as well as the governing agencies, so that we come to one common platform as an industry. Then remote clearance feasibility check. In case both the agencies are not available at the same time and the test facility is booked at a PSU, then in that scenario, at least there should be a provision that one agency is present, other agency can join remotely and give that clearance. So if that feasibility is available, nowadays due to COVID, we have learned that physical presence is not mandatory, even things can be done remotely. So that approach will definitely help the industry. At the same time, the product can move on a faster track. So availability of test facilities based on the requirement from the agencies. Then trust deficit to be overcome by penalties and insurance. That is one of the approach if we adopt, then definitely there will be less players who will be interested, and those who are really interested will definitely put more efforts to make sure that they don't get penalized or they do not have to pay any insurance claims. Okay, certifications approvals like AFQMS are addressed by DGOK, but horizontal applicability of the AFQMS to private industries. If we go onto the portal, sir, there are mostly PSUs available, but very few private industries I approach for it. So since we got one GTRE contract recently, so we are also approaching for AFQMS. But similar way, we should see more number of industries with this revised approach of AFQMS. Definitely, then more and more delegation can happen, and people will participate in more indigenization programs. So these are the efforts which we are doing from our side for building the confidence that AFQMS, then industry standards which are available internationally, that AS 13100, though it is not a requirement for domestic programs, it is only for civil aviation, but we have deployed it all across. So whatever best practice we are learning from any OEMs, we are making sure it becomes a part of our QMS. If it becomes a part of our QMS, it becomes routine practice, and over a period of time, we observe that people happily follow that. Initially, there is some resistance that it is delaying and all, but if we make the formats in such a way that those are like routine work, then people definitely follow it. Then IoT and artificial intelligence deployment in processes. So we observe that most of the mistakes happen because of the human factors. So end of the day, the person who is operating, that is a human. So we worked on IoT and artificial intelligence. Even for welding, when the person is doing welding, if the current or the time, the speed with which he is going, if there is some mismatch with the prescribed speed, then in that case a buzzer comes and the welder is alarmed that he has to increase his speed. So like that mechanism we have done, and as a part of DigiNext, which is an internal competition within Godrej where we go for digital to the next level, that was presented and that has won the first award, where actual a lady welder, she has demonstrated on the field how the system reacts and make sure the quality is built. So that's all from our side. So I request the to Semilec as well as DGOK team, so to consider our expectations. I understand that most of the steps you have already taken, so but going forward, hand-holding will be required from your side for us to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Sri Shukara. May I now
So just a quick introduction about our company. We are one of India's largest private industry aerospace and defense player, working in the areas of aerostructures, airborne platforms and systems, weapon systems and land mobility systems. I represent airborne platforms and systems, this division of TASL. And we are currently working on products which are typically tactical UAVs meant for surveillance and intelligence roles. And another product that we are currently developing is a two-seater manned ISA platform and eight-seater business jet converting into manned ISA platform. Other than these two platforms, we are currently working on developing new technologies which are autopilot and mission computer ground control stations to be integrated with these platforms. Okay. And we are also working on the development of our own gimbals, AI-based image processing, and SWAM algorithms. Now, while these are the development, these activities are being done with the we want to focus on complete, self-reliance with complete control on key technologies. That's our aim in taking up these in-house development activities. While we are doing all these activities, there are a few slides that I put together on the challenges that are being faced by us. One of them is meeting the short development timelines, which does not mean that we can compromise with the certificate process. No, that is not the intent. But the intent is to do the things faster in a simpler way without making any compromises. It was an absolute pleasure to listen to a speech from C. Semilec, where the initiatives that are being taken to simplify the certification process without any compromise, again, without any compromise on ensuring the safety of the systems. That's very heartening to note, and we feel very encouraged to interact with the Semilec further on learning further on these aspects. So while I understand that we are fully geared up to certify the conventional systems, but here in this slide I just want to highlight the challenges that we might face going forward on non-conventional systems where AI and 5G technologies are going to play an important role. Now, AI is being developed, these technologies are being developed by for mass consumption. Their use in military parlance is going to be immense, and it is going to cause a paradigm shift in helping the military to optimize their operations and make it more efficient. But at the same time, how do we certify such technologies is going to be a challenge in the future. One example I can give is that how do we certify, let's say, Alexa? Alexa is one of the mature technology for voice recognition. Now, if we put it on a autopilot or a mission computer in the cockpit, then how is this going to be certified? So it's a question for which probably we don't have an answer. Maybe we'll look forward to having an answer on this. The 5G is another technology where a lot of high-speed data transfer will take place in near time, and in future we'll see immersive virtual reality technology take place in almost real time to create let's say, a virtual theater of operations. Now, so these are some of the technologies which are going to be challenging in terms of certification. And when we apply these technologies to, let's say, drones that we are making today for various applications. So drones have their own challenges in terms of size, weight, power, and cost. And if you increase the size of these drones further, I'm sorry, I'm probably running out of time. But when we apply these technologies to a further higher class of vehicles, let's say eVTOLs, then the certifying challenge is going to be even higher. So typically, as we discussed, that certification typically means creating a lot of paperwork. Probably in the older parlance, it would have been that we create if printed, we create paperwork which is equal to the maximum takeoff weight of the aircraft itself. I mean, that's a lot of documentation. And sir, I humbly want to submit that so far, the role of certifying agencies that we have felt has been that of a supervisor and a scrutinizer. Whereas, I will just give an example of my interaction in the past with one of the certifying agencies in Europe. So I met the head of design organization and asked them that how do you interact with your certifying agencies to certify the aircraft or to put any new systems on the aircraft. Actually, we have partnered with this company and we are putting our autopilot in the cockpit to test like this. So that gentleman said that their certifying agency asked them only one question, that how are you going to ensure the safety of the pilot and safety of the aircraft. So once these two answers are given to their satisfaction, they give the permission to fly. I mean, it sounded very simple, but this is what it is. So we said that we have a kill switch to disengage the pilot from the autopilot because it's a manned aircraft, it's flying with the autopilot. And there's a parachute on the aircraft to take care of the safety of the aircraft. So once these two answers are given, that was good enough for a certifying agency to give a go-ahead for flying the aircraft. So this is just one example that how typically certifying in India or how the DOA, the design office, works in close coordination with the certifying agencies to expedite the timelines. So here, companies like us, sometimes we develop cold feet, looking at the process involved in carrying out the detailed design scrutiny and detailed test validations to be done. But believe me, this is our job, basically, that we need to do. I mean, in any case, we being an aerospace and defense industry, we had to do this job to our satisfaction. And of course, all these evidences are available for scrutiny by anyone. I mean, that's absolutely given. So, primarily, sir, we develop products which are complex, but they should be absolutely safe to fly. They should meet their mission objectives. They should be more user-friendly and the least costly. I mean, if you consider these are two opposite ends of the design spectrum. Now, it has to be most safe and reliable, least cost. These are two different ends. So, how do we do it? I mean, to do this, sometimes we put some innovative answers into the design. And being in a competitive environment, we probably would not like to disclose all the design details to, I mean, everyone. I mean, it will be limited to select few who need to know it on a need-to-know basis. So these are something that we'd like to address going forward. And I want to assure you that as an OEM, we give paramount importance to ensure the safety of the aircraft, safety of the pilot, and safety of the people on the ground. That's given. So with these challenges, sir, I'll just quickly wrap up. In terms of support that we need going forward is an empowerment of OEMs through approval of design offices, which there is a provision already in the DDB Mass 2. But this is today as for the non-safety critical items. We'll request the SAMLAC to extend it to mission critical and safety critical aspects as well in the due course of time, which is leading towards self-certification. The second important point I want to bring across is facilitation through DERs. I mean, this is a standard practice being followed in Europe, US, where a few DERs are appointed on the rules of the OEMs, and they become the interface between certification agency and the OEM. And then lastly, we would like to take collaborative approach to solve some of the few certification issues which will come up in the future in the new technology areas. So a release of new regulations is a very welcome step in this direction, sir, which addresses most of our concerns. And I think if these things are further resolved, I'm sure that we can say with proudly with the tagline, so made in India with pride. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. We have, unfortunately, due to paucity of time, we will have to truncate the Q&A session. We have time for maybe one or two questions. I would request anyone in private industry to put up questions. We can address them directly to panelists, after which we will continue the proceedings, if there are any questions. Right. Thank you to all the speakers. Please.
It's not a question, just a response to Mr. Prasad. I represent SIDM, and anytime, any assistance which you require, SIDM and the industry will be there to back up. Thank you.
Sir, there's 2 points I'd like to address. These two private industries, what they do. Yes. Hello. Okay. In my slides, because of shortage of things, I have not brought up two major reforms. Design organization approval. Tomorrow in the DEF Expo, for the first time in the country, we are handing over certificates where we'll delegate, that is the empowerment, the last slide of TAML. We are already doing it. We are giving to RWRDC of HAL and Accord. There's nothing sacrosanct about these two forms. They were doing a program with us, so we could appreciate their things, and we are giving some privileges. And next, what we are going to do is upgrade them to system safety critical also through the mission critical, so that the maturity of processes. Coming to the DER, that is the phase 3 of your reforms. This process is there in FA in USA, but for that we need to create an ecosystem of DERs. So I'm planning to put up a statement of case to the MOD. Air Force should help me in this, wherein all the retired AST knowledgeable guys from DRDO and people who have dirtied their hands in airworthiness, we'll put them through a certification course of 6 months in a Elite Institute, and we certify them to be DERs, so that the first level of vetting, sifting and sieving of the procedures and process with the private industry. Basically, their DERs are like chartered accountants, wherein the private industries, they go and pay them on a man-hour basis, and they do 90% of the streamlining of the procedures, so that when they come to FAA, most of the things are streamlined, and the time for certification is very fast. Second thing is updating it to safety critical. Unfortunately, in our country, that legal framework for criminal liability and financial liability is not there. I have suggested this and requested Defense Secretary himself. He was nice enough to understand my concern, and he has put a subcommittee to evolve the legal framework to be put in place, so that as and when CEMILAC is ready for the upgradation for safety critical systems also, we can delegate that authority to them. Third thing is, I would like to tell the Indian industry and Air Force, we are not delegating the empowerment of self-certification to them because you are asking. The scale at which this industry is exploding, with our limited resources at our disposal, it is humanly impossible to give the coverage. So it's in our selfish interest we do the empowerment and delegation. So we will drive ourselves. Okay? So that is the third point. And fourth point is, I have mandated in the R&D phase, LSP phase, there won't be any CEMILAC inspection. So there is no synchronization of CEMILAC and DGQA to be at the test site. Any CEMILAC is asking that he should be available, no. First right of denial, you give it to them. Whether he comes or not, testing starts. This mandate I have given in CEMILAC. I leave it to DGQA, at least for non-safety critical. If they can empower it, it will be good. And they can always provide a video recording or a computer test generated, certified by their chief designer, so that the liability and accountability of any wrong records, there will be a deterrent in place. So I hope most of the concerns what those two private industries have raised, I've addressed. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. May I now request Deputy Chief of Air Staff.
One point which my friend Godrej has raised, regarding this AFQMS approval to the private firms. Now, as per our system, the main contractor who is supplying directly the stores to the user, there the AFQMS we are giving. Further, we have given full autonomy and empowerment to the main contractor to give similar AFQMS down the line to tier 1, tier 2 vendors. So if Godrej has order from HAL for any, let us say, actuators for your Dahlia project, then HAL can carry out the assessment based on our AFQMS guidelines, give self-certification or AFQMS approval similar on the lines down the line to Godrej. So we do not go interfere in the supply chain of the main contractor. Wherever there are some issues with regards to quality, reliability, those only we carry out audits and do limited checks. So in that sense, what I clarify is we want to give full autonomy to main contractor so that they control their subcontractors for the quality and reliability of the stores which they procure from them. Secondly, the subcontractors can also seek the TPIs, the third party inspection bodies, which are jointly approved by us. In fact, we have made the document, a policy document, how the TPIs should function, what should be their role, what should be their requirements. But MOD wanted us that whatever TPIs have been selected by HAL, they also should be audited by DGAQA. So we additionally audited those TPIs, we also gave them our approval also. So those also can be utilized by the industry instead of getting the HAL inspectors or DGAQA inspectors to carry out inspection at their end. So that's what I clarify. Thank you. Sir, one more.
Thank you. We are really out of time. We can continue the discussion subsequently. I'd now like to request the Deputy Chief of the Air Staff, Air Marshal Narmadesh Tiwari, to kindly address with his closing remarks.
Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, it gives me great pleasure to see that so many people are here participating in a topic which is very important to all of us. The idea of putting this seminar together was to address major concerns of the private sector as we go forward in our ambition to be a world-class player in the aerospace sector. We know that being a test pilot myself and a background of testing, we know how important is certification, and for many of the private sector which is getting into this, it almost looks like an insurmountable hurdle. Therefore, it was good that we engage in this conversation. I think part of the thunder was stolen by CE Semilac, because I was expecting that there'll be many more Q&A, and I think a lot of the concerns which possibly has been anticipated, and I must compliment him and his organization that they are looking at addressing some of those concerns, because it is very important that as an organization and as a collective ecosystem, we are more like enablers rather than seeing as hurdles in the path of progress. But as I may say, the caveat still remains that in aviation, there is no compromise on certification and safety and quality. Because you see the catastrophic effect, and any small, things that we overlook, it can have a very, very damaging effect and a long-term impact. And therefore, to expect that there will be shortcuts, or to expect that we will take a process, accelerate the process in the interest of fielding equipment which may not be fully certified, is not the way that we should progress. In fact, our aim should be, now that we are fledgling into this industry, is that Indian certified products should be sold across the world with the assumption and with the certification and certitude that they are quality products. And it, just as today, a FAA certified product has a lot, when it comes, no one questions it. That is the level that we have to reach. And for that, while certification and QA agencies have a part to play, I think there is a greater responsibility to the industry. And this is what has been brought out, that your QA, your industrial practices, your system approach to design and development is equally essential. So in the interest of safety and security, please don't take shortcuts, because it can actually be very damaging in the long term. So I will not take too much time, but I must thank all of you for who have come here and gathered today. But I think we have taken away some very good lessons and very good, initiation of initiatives by the certification agencies, which I will ensure in the long term will play a very, very significant aspect in as we grow in our ambition to be a world-class player. So thank you very much. I must thank all the panelists for giving this time, and all the audience here to be such a receptive audience. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for adding value to this learning experience. If I can also request you to kindly be on stage and felicitate our esteemed speakers. Starting from my left, Air Vice Marshal George Thomas, please. Air Marshal C.R. Mohan, please. Shri A.P.V.S. Prasad, please. Shri Sanjay Chawla, please. Shri Amol Thorat, please. And Shri Ajay Gupta, please. Thank you so much for doing the honors. If I can also request for a commemorative picture, all our dignitaries, please step forward for a commemorative picture, please. Thank you very much. In the end, heartfelt gratitude to our speakers and valuable dignitaries. Many thanks to our audience for being a part of this wonderful session. Hope this seminar has been an enriching experience to all of you. Thank you very much. Jai Hind. And a small announcement, tea and coffee has been served outside, so please go and enjoy yourself. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.